Well, hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you joining us today. If you've ever stood out back, looked at a patch of grass, and thought, man, I really want to turn that into a productive food source, well, you are literally in the perfect place. Today, we're going to break down the foundational steps of home vegetable gardening. We're pulling directly from authoritative agricultural extension guidelines to really demystify the whole shebang. We are going to learn exactly how to get things growing. Okay, let's dive into this. This bold claim right here comes straight from our source material: vegetable gardening is cool again. And honestly, it really is. More and more of us are wanting to get our hands dirty, right? We want to know exactly where our food comes from and actually reap those tangible rewards of growing our own crops. It's this awesome blend of science, a little patience, and just a fantastic direct payoff.
Now, I want you to just look at this lush, vibrant greenery. Kind of inspiring, isn't it? It's so easy to look at a setup like this and think, oh, no way. That takes decades of master-level experience. But I'm telling you, this isn't just a pretty picture. With the right structured approach, a lush garden like this can absolutely be your backyard reality. It really just comes down to following a logical, step-by-step process.
So, here's our roadmap for the explainer today. 1. Selecting the perfect site. 2. Containers, beds, or fields. 3. Decoding soil and fertilizer. And 4. Arranging your garden layout.
Section 1. Selecting the perfect site.
So, look, where you physically place the garden, that dictates your success before you've even planted a single seed. You simply cannot out-garden a bad location. And the absolute first element of site selection is sunlight. Different veggies have different preferences, so we've got to use a bit of a Goldilocks technique to find what's just right. If a plant prefers sunny conditions, it needs direct light for at least 8 hours a day, ideally 10. Partial shade plants, they need a minimum of 5 but fewer than 8 hours. And here is a crucial warning from our source. For plants that prefer shade, giving them more than 6 hours of direct sun could actually be harmful. They really just need about 3 to 4 hours. You've got to match the plant to your actual yard conditions.
Okay, next up is drainage. Your plants need to drink, sure, but they definitely don't want to drown. The guidelines give us a wonderfully practical test for this. Think of it like this. The next time you get a really hard rain, go out and look at your intended garden spot. If water stands in puddles for more than 24 hours, you do not have well-drained soil. You're going to need to either fix that or just pick a different spot entirely.
And speaking of water, how much does a healthy garden actually need once it's up and growing? The magic number is roughly 1 to 2 inches of water per week to stay perfectly moist. That ensures the roots get steady hydration without being perpetually waterlogged, which of course assumes your soil drains well, like we just talked about.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds: containers, beds, or fields.
Just look at the visual proof right here. On the left, we've got heavy-producing tomato plants absolutely thriving in simple containers right on a wooden deck. And, on the right, traditional raised beds just bursting with leafy crops. This is a brilliant reminder that you can grow high-quality vegetables no matter your yard size. Containers are fantastic because they let you manage space on patios or balconies, while raised beds are perfect for organizing those larger flat areas in a typical backyard. But what if your yard isn't flat? What if you're dealing with a severe slope? Well, don't worry, you are not out of luck. The agricultural extension provides a highly effective structural solution here: terracing. As you can see with these heavy wooden retaining walls, terracing actually prevents soil erosion and creates these step-like, flat, highly usable planting beds right out of otherwise impossible terrain.
Now, before we move on to soil chemistry, I really want to emphasize this piece of advice, directly from the guidelines. Start small and build on your success. Look, it is incredibly common for beginners to get super ambitious, dig up half their lawn, and then immediately get overwhelmed by all the maintenance. Keep it manageable for your first season. A small, successful garden is infinitely more rewarding than a massive failing one. Trust me on that.
All right, Section 3, decoding soil and fertilizer.
We're shifting our focus underground now. Understanding soil fertility is, hands down, the secret engine of a good garden. You can have the perfect sunlight, the perfect layout, but if your soil is junk, your plants are going to struggle. The holy grail of garden dirt is called loam. It's defined as roughly equal portions of clay and sand, mixed with a reasonable amount of humus, which is just organic matter. To really see your plants thrive, you want this rich, loamy topsoil to be deep, at least 8 to 12 inches. And crucially, you want to make sure there's no shallow hardpan beneath it, blocking root growth and drainage. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how intimidating fertilizer bags can look when you're just standing there in the garden center, right? They look super industrial. But once you know how to read the analysis label, those 3 big numbers right on the front, you'll realize it's basically just a simple recipe. So let's break down what that 10-20-10 actually means. Those numbers always appear in the exact same sequence, NPK. So this specific bag is 10% nitrogen, 20% phosphorus, and 10% potash, which is also known as potash. Different crops are categorized as light, medium, or heavy feeders, meaning they need different amounts of these nutrients to maximize yield. And I really have to point out the source's extremely pragmatic, money-saving advice here. You do not have to use the entire bag at one time. Seriously, just measure what your specific garden footprint actually needs.
Section 4. Arranging your garden layout.
Okay, so you've picked the site, you've built the beds, you've amended the soil. Now we have to strategically arrange the actual plants inside the space you've created. This table outlines the golden rule of garden layout. You want to plant taller veggies toward the north side of the garden and shorter veggies to the south. Perennials, those are the plants that come back year after year, like asparagus, they should go off to the side so they aren't disturbed during your annual tilling. The core logic behind this north-south layout? It's all about tracking the sun. It perfectly prevents your massive, tall plants from casting harmful shade over your shorter, sun-loving crops as the sun moves across the southern sky.
Let's connect that rule directly to some visual proof. Look at this garden setup. You can clearly see how the tall, staked tomatoes are positioned way at the back, the north side, while the front area is left wide open for the shorter elements to soak up unimpeded sunlight. It's basically structural engineering for maximum photosynthesis.
And this brilliantly illustrates a highly organized approach called the square-foot garden. Just look at that precise wooden grid. The philosophy here aligns perfectly with our layout rules. Keep small things in small places and put the big things off to the side where they won't shade out the smaller crops. It's just a remarkably efficient way to maximize your yield in a very confined area.
Now, there's another crucial structural tip hiding in the source materials about layout, and you can actually see it right here. Notice these distinct brick pathways created between the planting zones? The golden rule is make pathways so you avoid walking in the garden. Walking on your planting beds compacts that gorgeous loamy soil we worked so hard to build, and it can even spread disease. Defined pathways keep your soil loose and your plants sanitary. So when you actually go to select your specific vegetable cultivars to put into that layout, you're going to encounter 2 main terms, open-pollinated and hybrid. Let's briefly clarify this. Open-pollinated cultivars are plants whose seeds can theoretically be saved from year to year to regrow, but full disclosure, the Extension Service generally doesn't recommend that practice for beginners. On the flip side, hybrid cultivars are the result of very specific crosses. Their seeds cannot be successfully saved for replanting the next year. You're basically buying fresh hybrid seeds every single season. And bringing all these steps together, the site selection, the soil prep, the layout, and picking the right seeds brings us to the ultimate reward. I mean, just look at these incredibly healthy, leafy greens ready for harvest. This right here is the entire goal. But before you go outside and start dropping seeds into the dirt, there is one final, overriding philosophy you absolutely must keep in mind. And it's this highly pragmatic piece of advice straight from the source. Grow what your family will eat. I know, it sounds incredibly obvious, right? But it is the most common mistake. Don't plant 40 radishes if literally no one in your household likes radishes, no matter how easy they are to grow. The absolute best garden is the one that directly serves the specific tastes of your own kitchen table.
Which leaves us with this final thought. You now have the blueprint. You know how to read your sunlight, test your drainage, decode your soil, and organize your space. So look out your window. Based on the specific amount of daily sunlight hitting your yard right now, what will be the very first vegetable you choose to plant? Get out there, start small, and build on your success.